So excited.
Today's vlog is going to be about periodisation. Now this isn't something that your mum gets once a month. This is actually something, or a very important variable, when it comes to training. So today's vlog is going to be about periodisation, what it is, and whether or not you need it. Typically, periodisation can be classed as your plan. And as it's yours, it will change over time accordingly based on your short-term and long-term goals. See, when you see these Olympic lifters on TV, or, okay, let's use Usain Bolt as the example. If he is, or if we met him now and he came in and we were like, oh, come on Usain, go and run that 100 metres in 9 minutes 40, or 9 seconds 40, or whatever he did it in. There's a high probability he will not be able to do it because athletes peak towards a competition, and it's the same with us. You can't sort of, okay, again, using me as the example, my maxed 1 RM squat when I was around 19 or 20, I think, was 175. And I haven't even worked up towards my max since then because I've just been focusing on volume, but I am going through that phase now and I will be testing it in the next 8 weeks because I am currently peaking towards it. So, you know, understand that athletes don't always perform at that level, they peak towards it, and you have to go through periods of sort of periodization in order to continue to make progress. So in turn, periodization is actually pretty damn important in order for us to make gains with the hashtag Z. Why Z? Why put a Z at the end of gains? Like, imagine putting a Z, vegetables. That just doesn't work, does it? I don't understand that. But anyway. See, there are many different forms of periodization, but first I'm just going to talk about a little something which I think is quite important, and that is who doesn't need to use periodization. Back when I first started lifting weights, I did not understand or even know what periodization meant until I was sort of 3 years into my training. I'd never followed a program, and I actually put this down the first 3 years as to, well, I put it down as a quite important phase of my lifting because I think this is where I made probably the majority of my gains. And I was a typical sort of go to the gym with a friend, walk in, no clue what to do, just do whatever we felt like on the day. And I think it's very, very important, and I do this with my clients who are relatively new to the gym, where I don't really get them to, or I don't think you should stick to a program for at least maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And the reason why I think this is because I think as a beginner and an individual, beginner and a novice, I think it's really important that you practice lots of different movements first. Get used to trying loads of different exercises. Find what you enjoy, and just, this is a bit of a bro thing to say, but just smash yourself for volume, because you're going to be able to handle it when you are younger. And when I mean younger, I mean if you're looking at this in your sort of in your late teens, early 20s, and just hammer yourself with volume, because you are going to be able to recover a lot easier than someone who's a little bit older and who has the stresses of everyday life, because they do play a really big part with regards to recovery. And unfortunately, when you, or as you do get older, stress does become more of a thing. So you do have that ability to recover a lot faster than someone who works a normal 9-to-5 job. But by all means, if you want to begin your lifting phase following a periodized plan, then I think you should crack on and do it. But just make sure it varies from exercise to exercise. And in fact, in terms of research and sort of application, it does seem as if sort of novice type lifters can yield the same results as long as sort of volume is equated when they follow a program or if they just go into the gym and do whatever they want, because gains will come thick and fast, like I mentioned earlier. But you know, as soon as the sort of newbie gains come to a halt, then really you should start thinking about periodizing your training, because there's a high probability that weight will keep going up and up on the bar throughout the sort of first few weeks. Then after that you'll hit a snag and you'll be like, shit, right, weight's not going up, I'm not getting bigger, what do I do? Enter periodization.
So we started.
Yeah, horrible.
Oh my word!
Horrible things. I know.
Good though. You can go for it on that.
I know. Now when we think or do anything fitness, we should be thinking long term. Because as we know, gains, you know, they don't happen overnight, but this is what some people unfortunately think. So the periodization method that we are going to be talking about today is linear periodization. So we will use the squat as the example, and what we're going to do is on week 1, 4 sets of 10 at 65% of your 1 rep max. Then in week 2, 3 sets of 8 reps at 75%. Then in week 3, 3 sets of 6 at 80%. And then in week 4, 4 sets of 4 at 84%. So as the weeks go on, volume will obviously decrease and intensity increases. Now you may be thinking, where do I go from here? So obviously it's totally up to you. So you can either have a deload week if you're feeling a bit beat up. And then it's totally up to you what you do. You could either go back to week 1 where you do 4 sets of 10 again at 65%, but obviously you will be sort of stronger then in that week, which means for your 10 reps you will be able to lift more. So you will be progressively overloading that way. So that's one way to go about it. Secondly, you could head into another sort of, or if you're focusing on strength anyway, you could head into a more of a sort of strength block. Which again, starting week 1, your percentage may be a bit higher, reps a tad lower, so again, intensity will be increasing throughout that second block, and volume will be decreasing again, or it will be lower than what the first 4-week block will be. So again, you have to think of it in long term. I mean, you can't continuously keep adding volume and volume and volume, because there will become a time where you won't be able to recover as efficiently after sessions, because obviously the volume will be getting too much, and we've all got different rates at which we recover. So that's one thing that you really do need to consider, and it's something that not many people do consider. So you know, when it comes to programming a client's program, it's more than just 3 sets of 12 dumbbell press. You have to take all of these variables into consideration: their lifestyle, how stressful their life is, how many times they can train, so the frequency, the intensity, the time in which they rest, the time which they can get the session in. You have to take these variables into consideration before even thinking about planning it. Because if you, example, 2 identical twins, one's a labourer, the other one is, say for example, sat at a desk job. Genetic pool, pretty much the same, but there's a high probability that the one sitting at a desk job will be able to recover more efficiently between and after sessions than the labourer who's on his feet for the majority of the day, lifting and carrying heavy things. So you have to take a lot of things into consideration. Now you may be thinking, sort of, how do I work at a certain percentage of my 1RM when I don't know what my 1RM is? So this is where rate of perceived exertion comes into play, so RPE scale. Now the way I use it is the RPE scale. It ranges from 1 to 10, okay? So 1 being the lower side of the spectrum, 10 being the higher side. And what it essentially does is that if you imagine that when you get to your last rep, So let's say we'll use the first week, 4 sets of 10. When you come to your 10th rep, and let's say your RPE is at 8, then obviously the RPE scale works from 0 to 10. So when you hit that last rep at an RPE of 8, you should have 2 reps left in the tank. If it was an RPE of 7, then you would have 3 reps left in the tank. If it was an RPE of 9, have a guess? Correct, you would have 1 rep left in the tank. So that's how it works. So if you know, that's a good way to use if you are a beginner who hasn't tested their 1RM yet, and it's a good way to go about it. Ah, there you are. Oh, this door is jammed. How are you?
I'm doing it with one hand then.
Well, I'm trying to film.
Oh, you're filming.